wanted to talk a little bit about the first milestone on the way to on the way to enlightenment. Actually, it's considered a higher state of consciousness, but it's really just like the first major milestone. And it's called various things: self-realization, cosmic consciousness. And the sort of textbook description of cosmic consciousness is that you meditate daily, hopefully maybe twice a day, maybe once a day, but you're experiencing this deep inner silence, this expanded awareness. And eventually you gain clarity enough at that experience that you are experiencing actually unbounded awareness. And you're then engaging in your daily life. So you're going through your day's activity, and you're also sleeping and going through dreaming. These are the three states of consciousness that you normally experience. And you're alternating that with this fourth state of unbounded awareness, transcendental consciousness. And because that state is blissful in nature, the body and mind kind of, they love it, and it tries to hold on to that, but through the day's activity you completely lose it. And so it goes for some years, but gradually more of the value of that fourth state comes in to coexist as a sort of backdrop with the other three states: waking, sleeping, dreaming, until at some point the full value of that fourth state is there along with waking, sleeping, and dreaming. And now it's no longer just waking, sleeping, or dreaming. It's waking plus that transcendental consciousness, plus that unbounded awareness, sleeping plus that, dreaming plus that. So now you have a different state of consciousness. It's not either one of those three only, nor is it just transcendental consciousness. It's a combination. So it's kind of like the mudra combo. It's both. It's all of those. Uh, and so the distinguishing characteristic, it's really hard to tell if you're in cosmic consciousness through your daily activity, because your focus is still on everything out here. And you may feel a kind of inner silence and peace and a felicity and underlying sense of blissfulness and happiness and joy. All of that's there. But how do you know, okay, that's not cosmic consciousness? You can't really tell. But you can tell because during sleep, you're still awake. So it's not like you're having a restless sleep. It's not like you can't go to sleep. Rather, you'll have a very wonderful sleep, but there's this inner wakefulness of pure awareness that doesn't go out. The lights don't go out inside, even when you sleep. And oftentimes the only way you can tell that you were asleep, because you wake up and you realize, oh, I was having dreams. But otherwise I was awake the whole time. But you weren't really awake in the waking state of consciousness. You were just awake in that transcendental consciousness. Okay, so that is the sort of textbook description of cosmic consciousness. And I wanted to give a little more intimate description, give a little deeper sense of it than that. So that it's like breaking the sound barrier. For a long time, I mean, I've seen movies about this. I don't really know a lot about it, but I did see a movie about these, hot rod jet flyer guys and Air Force pilots or whatever. They were experimenting and trying to break the sound barrier, going faster than the speed of sound. And it was really a difficult thing. It couldn't be done. The plane started shaking like crazy. It was really a hard thing to do. But cosmic consciousness, going into cosmic consciousness, is like you finally broke the sound barrier. You may have meditated for years and years and years, had so many different experiences, but still somehow that goal was elusive. And suddenly, when you finally drop into cosmic consciousness, it is like kind of the bottom falls out of the limitation on your transcending. Like during meditation, you may have wonderful experiences, but you don't really know that there's this bottom until you drop into cosmic consciousness, and then it's like the bottom drops out and there's a distinct change. And I like that analogy to describe that change. It's like suddenly the sound barrier has been broken. And it is a kind of cosmic awareness in the sense that it's like this awareness that underlies everything. It's this awareness that is cosmic in proportion. It is unbounded, it is infinite. And it's also like the quote, wisdom eye opens because you feel a lot of um, sort of beaming light right up here. And it's just, there's a lot happening right there in the forehead in that area. And in some traditions, they call that the wisdom eye, which is interesting. And the reason that is kind of interesting because another characteristic of cosmic consciousness is that you get a lot of influx of knowledge, of information. You have access suddenly to a lot of knowledge. Um, and it's kind of, there's a story in the Vedic tradition of the source of the Ganga. I take people, in fact, I've taken Diane to the source of the Ganga. And I don't know if you remember this story, but the actual source of the Ganga is in heaven. And the story as it goes is that I think it's Narayana. He is the first being in the holy tradition of teachers. Um, and he is usually pictured as being in a prostrate position. And out of his navel grows a lotus, and on the lotus is Brahma, the creator. So he's the underlying absolute underneath even all the activities of creation. But I think it's his toe. It's either his or Vishnu. I should have checked this before I gave this talk. Whatever. It, forgive me the approximations, okay? But it's his toe hits the edge of the universe, the known universe, and it breaks a little hole in it. And out of that hole rushes, or from that hole, rushes into the universe a flood of uh, pure nectar, waters, cosmic waters. And that cosmic waters is the Ganga. That's the Ganga on the celestial level before it comes to Earth. And it's coming in with such force that there's a lot of concern on the part of, I think it's the different devatas that get concerned because this could crush the earth. It's, or maybe it's the earth itself that is scared by this huge flow of influx of actually it represents knowledge. And then that's when they, whoever it is, I think it's the earth, implores Shiva, and then Shiva takes the force of that on his head. That's why you see Shiva with this, river coming to his head. And he breaks the fall of the Ganga, and then it falls to earth in a more gentle form. And that's the actual source of the Ganga at Gangotri, where we go. But the whole point of that story, kind of a tangent, is that is that flow of knowledge. That's what that represents. And in cosmic consciousness, you get a lot of knowledge. It's just this influx of knowledge because you have this sort of cosmic awareness. So that's part of it. But it is, at the same time, it's important to understand that this is just a milestone on the way to enlightenment. It is not enlightenment. And we could talk about why, but a couple things about that is that you still have an ego. You're still experiencing this. You're still an I very much experiencing this. And so it's just a milestone. It is a higher level of consciousness, but it's a milestone that is not yet enlightenment. So it's kind of like the dawn, of enlightenment. Before the sun has actually risen and come to the full, daylight of enlightenment, it's this dawn. which is very promising and very exciting after all these years of darkness, so to speak. So now that's very significant. It's not at all insignificant. Um, so it's like that dawning. Oh yeah, I just I came up with another analogy. Okay, imagine when before modern times, when people had not really, when they thought the earth was flat, and some people probably had an idea it was round, and I guess the some of the Vikings and so forth traveled across the seas to even North America. So let's say in those times, imagine going from Europe to North America. You'd be really wondering if you were ever going to see land again, and you'd be at sea for months at a time. And that's kind of like going towards this cosmic consciousness. And when you finally land on ground on North America, what a relief. This, now you're back into some known territory. That's like, okay, that's cosmic consciousness. But what your real goal is to get to California, right? Or maybe to Puget Sound, to San Juan Island, right? So that's your actual goal. But now at least you got to North America. So imagine the relief you'd feel. Okay, so that's like cosmic consciousness. Now getting to enlightenment, all you have to do is walk a few thousand miles. That's doable. That at least you're on ground, right? So anyway, that's my other analogy for this milestone in higher states of consciousness. So so anyway, that's just a little glimpse into the nature of cosmic consciousness. And next week, I'll talk about the next milestone in this unfolding of enlightenment. But there are distinct um, symptoms of something that's happening that's very different than just ordinary, everyday, what they call ignorance, or just everyday, awareness. Awake, when you're restricted to that waking, sleeping, and dreaming, because that ordinary consciousness is restricted to this limited mind, and you don't have real access to that unbounded, infinite, expanse of awareness. So that cosmic consciousness is that first opening to that true value of unbounded awareness, and in a way that sticks, it stays. Om Purnamada Purnamitam Purnahat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.